Ah, the PlayStation Vita, beloved handheld to some, obscure knick-knack to most, which is a real shame, as Sony's often forgotten console contains some absolutely stellar exclusives, one of which is getting a second chance at life on the PlayStation 4. Originally developed by Team Siren and now ported by Bluepoint Games, you might remember them from last fall's Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. Gravity Rush Remastered is the 2012 original, ported to 1080p and including all of its original DLC. So, is it worth it? Well... Somewhere between Super Mario Galaxy and God of War lies Gravity Rush, a highly original title that blends strong artistic sensibilities with action-packed fights. Taking place on the floating city of Hexville, players take control of Kat, a young girl struggling to remember her past. Unbeknownst to her, she's a sifter, an individual with the ability to manipulate gravity at will. But before Kat can grasp her situation, the city is attacked by Nevi, otherworldly creatures that have removed entire districts of Hexville piece by piece. Now Kat must protect the skeptical civilians and prove herself to be a hero while attempting to recover her lost memories. As a narrative, Gravity Rush is as simple as a children's bedtime story, but much like a classic fairy tale, it swaps out complex story threads for heartfelt emotional beats. While Kat will regularly use her powers to destroy threatening creatures, her goal is to reunite friends and families. That's not to say the story is overly serious. In fact, all of the characters are quite comical despite their dire circumstances. And that's the real charm of Gravity Rush, an overall sense of optimism and community. Everyone has someone to fall back on, whether that's children and their parents, an elderly couple, or even Kat and her pet, cat, named Dusty. Before you can rescue the city from certain doom, you'll need to adapt to gravity shifting. With a tap of the R1 button, Kat will ascend from the ground. Pressing R1 in any direction will send her hurling forwards. Or maybe it's down. You see, she's not actually flying, it's more like falling with style, meaning every push feels slightly risky. Landing on any surfaces allows her to walk naturally, but keep in mind that physical laws are still in effect, meaning you can literally fall off the side of a building. The upper left-hand corner displays how much shifting power Kat has left. Once it's depleted, you'll be set back to natural gravity. Throughout the game's campaign, you'll level up Kat's shifting powers, allowing players more flexibility. New abilities such as sliding and floating objects are introduced as the game progresses. Make no mistake, this is a gimmick, but Gravity Rush infuses this concept into every aspect of the game with thrilling success. The game's open world, filled with hardy collectibles, allow players to experiment before diving into more demanding challenges. It's unique, to be sure, as your most valuable skill is remembering which way is up. But this is an action game after all, and fighting monster takes up the majority of the game's missions. The Nevi come in all shapes and sizes, with both melee and projectile weapons, each with a vulnerable orb to attack. What Kat lacks in upper body strength, she more than makes up for in devastating kicks. Combat is relatively easy, and ground-based Nevi can be destroyed with a brief mashing of the square button. Airborne enemies are slightly more interesting, as you'll have to line up your reticle to perform a dive kick. If the action gets too hot, you can always use Kat's dodge for a moment of invincibility. Frankly, it's not all that difficult outside of the occasional missed airstrike, but it is fun. If anything, these sequences feel more like a reward for successfully adapting to the game's unusual mechanics. Dive bombing an unthreatening Nevi into oblivion is always a treat. This is due in large part to Gravity Rush's stellar presentation. While it's obvious this game was designed for a much less powerful console, the wondrous world looks like a blend between Hayao Miyazaki and Jean-Pierre Jeunet. The use of colors is limited, but each section of the city embraces a different hue, communicating the nature of the districts while highlighting the Nevi's threatening red glow. Gravity Rush's consistently vibrant locations never obstruct your view of items and objectives. It's a truly impressive accomplishment. Cutscenes are mostly delivered as single-image comic book panels. Though far from ideal, the positioning of the characters and composition make for surprisingly effective sequential art storytelling. Many of the drawings that introduce new chapters are so good, you'll wish you had them hanging on your wall. But Gravity Rush's greatest presentational aspect is its absolutely gorgeous soundtrack. Pianos, woodwinds, strings, accordions, and synthesizers swell, enveloping the player into the game's Mediterranean influences. Each piece is perfectly crafted for the task at hand. Exploring the world becomes a joy with lovingly arranged layered melodies, encouraging players to explore every avenue, while boss fights are accompanied by undistracting rhythm and synth tracks. If nothing else, Gravity Rush has one of the finest soundtracks currently available on the PlayStation 4. So, is it worth it? Yes. Gravity Rush feels like a game from a different time. The entirety of its design is built around a single mechanic, with each mission testing your ability before facing off against the final challenge. That alone could make for a compelling gameplay experience, but Gravity Rush goes above and beyond to endear itself to its audience, with its magical world, endearing cast of characters, and enticing soundtrack. There's a reason it's considered one of the PlayStation Vita's best games. It's very, very good. Gravity Rush Remastered is currently available on the PlayStation 4 for $30. If you've had a chance to play it, let me know what you thought, and if you haven't, let me know if you plan on picking it up. My name is Colin Tanner, and I'll see you in the next video.